All right, here we go with another image. And it looks like we've got an office shot, so just gonna get straight to it. Adjust the color temperature here a little bit. Go ahead and save that. I'll come back into Adobe Bridge and I'll just take you through these exposures here real quick. So half of these have a flash, the other half don't. The real purpose of the flash is really just to bring in the window area. Don't want to use the flash as your base image because you're probably going to get some harsh shadows. You'll get the bounce off of the different materials like the woods and things like that. So always be cautious of how you use the exposures with the flash, It definitely has its purpose, and knowing how to use it will result in the best possible image. Sometimes I like to use the flash for the outside view, as long as it's not getting, that bounce off the reflection of the glass itself. Sometimes it just has a much more attractive look than the non-flash images. This one doesn't have a flash, and then this one does have the flash, and I actually like the one that has the flash a little bit more for the outside view. So I'll bring that into Camera Raw, make some quick adjustments to it. Try and cool it down. Don't want to add too much saturation, otherwise we'll get that crappy HDR look. Definitely want to avoid that. But for now, I'm just going to resize this down to about 4K so it's a little bit easier to work on. And I might come back into Adobe Bridge and grab another image to use, but for right now this is decent. So right now I just added a mask, and I'm just painting this area in to kind of tame down that window area, and then I'm going to use this layer as the outside view, and then I'll just use the pen tool to start making drawing out a quick path. And for now, I'm just going to include that lamp right there. And I'll come back in a minute and make adjustments to that lamp as necessary. But just trying to get in and out real quick here. Nothing too crazy. The real problem with this particular image is the fact that there's a lot of cords. There's a lot of cords and stuff underneath the desk that I'm going to try to remove. So I just applied that as a mask. This is the stuff that I'm talking about here. And this is going to be pretty difficult because we're basically going to have to copy and paste existing imagery and just kind of manipulate it into place until all this stuff is covered up. So doing that kind of workflow always poses its own set of problems. So I'm just going to use the polygonal lasso tool instead of the pen tool. Makes that a little bit easier, a little bit quicker. I'll come in here to the little mesh back of the chair, and I'll make a selection and paint that in. And I'm going to come in here and try to remove. Well, I guess it looks fine. I was going to remove the this harsh edge from the flash, but I think in this case it actually looks good because if I remove it, I'm going to end up with these lens flares, and that will require more time to actually remove those. So I'm just going to leave that flash kind of as is. I think it looks good enough. I'm going to come in here to the other desk area, pop in another path, and draw a path around the desk itself, and I will paint this in because it's just a little overexposed. Nothing crazy. And I'll kind of do the same over here with this mesh area. Just going to paint that in just so it's a little bit more consistent. And now that I've got that area kind of settled, I will come back in here, pop in another path, and adjust the lamp itself. Because obviously it's got that really strong reflection from the flash. And maybe if I tone that down a little bit, it will look better. So I'll just make a selection, make sure I'm on that layer, and start painting it out. And I think that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to click the mask, go up to the properties, and I will feather the edge of the mask. That looks pretty good. I'll come underneath, pop in a brightness and contrast adjustment layer, and paint that into the surrounding area so that it's a little bit more even and a little bit brighter. I'm gonna pop in, looks like Photoshop is glitching out on me, so I'm just gonna save that. Just reopen that real quick and resume working. Sometimes Photoshop kind of bugs out on me. I always had that problem, no matter what version I'm working on. It's always got its problems, you know. Looks like this is just a little overblown, so I'm just gonna click that once or twice with a soft brush. Of the my opacity is at 30% and the flow is at 30%. I don't need to go crazy. You know, I don't want to paint this in too much. Just lower it a little bit. It's not even worth coming in here, and you know, you don't have to do all that. I think it's good enough as is. Don't have to make a selection and, you know, kind of go to town. It's not that big of a deal. But now that I've got a lot of this covered, it's really time to kind of get into the stuff that's going to be a problem and start removing chords and things like that. So I just merged everything onto a new layer. That way I can start editing the image as a whole, you know. Makes it way easier just merging all onto a new layer. And I'll try to remove these things that are just the curtains themselves, because it will look way better if I can manage to remove that. And that's decent. Again, this is really kind of going above and beyond, but I'm just trying to illustrate some problems that you may encounter and how to deal with them. Most of the time in Photoshop, there's really not one quick and easy way to fix things. Sometimes it'll take several manual steps to, you know, achieve that goal that you're trying to get to. But that looks pretty decent so far. Before I keep going on with those chords over there, I'm going to come in over here. And I don't like how I'm getting the reflection from the light bulbs up here. So I'm just going to pop in a new layer. Take up my opacity, and I'm just going to kind of paint that out at the top. Just make sure that it's gone. Oh, I thought I popped in a new layer there. I don't know what happened. Okay, so now I've got that selected. Now I can just kind of come in here and just paint over it. Doesn't have to be anything special. There's not a whole lot of color differentiation going on here. It's basically red. A little, you know, it's kind of a dark red at the top, and then it gets lighter near here at the other bottom. But no need to be a traditional artist when it comes to small problems like that, you know. But now that I did that, it just looks cleaner, you know. If you want to spend more time and add a highlight to it, so that it kind of maintains that glossy glass material, you can do that. See if I can't remove this. All right, that's surprising. I'm always surprised whenever Photoshop does a decent job removing stuff. Usually does such a crappy job. But just copy and pasted that selection. And scoot that up to the top. Pop in a layer. That way I can just paint this part out. And that looks decent enough. Pretty quick and dirty, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Just wanted to make sure I removed that reflection. If you're going to do it on one side, make sure that you cover the reflection as well, whether that's in a wooden material or a glass or mirror, whatever it is. So I'm just going to merge all onto a new layer again. And I think I will continue on. Yeah, I'll continue on trying to remove this stuff. There we go, okay. And this is so manual, There's really no way around it, though. If the clients want things to be removed, then you're really going to have to take your time and do it manually sometimes. Sometimes content aware will get you pretty far. Sometimes the AI tools that Photoshop has now will do a decent job, but sometimes you're just going to have to do it manually. I'm a big fan of learning how to do everything step by step manually, not taking any shortcuts, because if you can't do it using foundational tools to get the job done, then you're really going to struggle when the time comes. If you're using programs like Lightroom or even content-aware tools in Photoshop to get the job done, it's not good, because a lot of times that stuff is going to fail you. It won't get the job done. At the end of the day, some of the stuff is just so manual. It's just so manual, So now that I've got that area kind of cleaned up, I'll try to use the spot healing brush to remove some of these cords down here at the bottom. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Keep in mind, whatever your virtual tour is going to be sent out as, most people are going to be viewing this at a pretty great distance. They'll see the image like that. They're probably not going to zoom in and start meticulously looking through the image to make sure that pixels are, literally perfect and stuff like that. And with this baseboard, this crown molding here at the bottom, since we stretched it, you can see that it's got some stretching now, but at a distance, you can completely get away with that. And, the clients are going to be much happier with this result overall, because, it's not as messy. Doesn't have all this garbage down here at the bottom. And again, the spot healing brush is really only taking me so far at this point, that I'm going to try and come in here and copy and paste some of this existing imagery over here and just kind of distort it. Use the distort tool here. And don't want it to get too crazy, though. And I'll come in here. Just start deleting things. I'm not even going to bother with a mask. Pop in another layer over here, since we've got some curves. Some curved legs down here on this chair. Now I'll go ahead and pop in a mask and brush this out. Hopefully it blends in together pretty well. I think it will. Yeah. But again, you can see the problem when you use existing areas of the image to copy and paste it and then kind of manipulate it into place. It's going to lose the quality. Again, we're getting some more stretching here, and it's kind of inconsistent with how the floor is overall. But again, at a distance, you can easily get away with it. Can easily get away with it. And this area over here is not perfect, but that looks fine. I'll see if I can't remove. That's decent. Try and remove the remaining. I don't even know what you call these curtain things to draw the shades. I'm completely blanking on what these are called. But anyways, they gotta go. And again, it's not fun having to do everything manually, but with problems like this, sometimes you just have to do it that way. But fortunately, it shouldn't be too much longer here. That's pretty dirty, to be honest, but I think it's good enough. You know, again, always balance your time. How much time do you have to spend on these images? Yeah, that was a lot of work, though. That was a lot to do. I don't enjoy doing stuff like that at all. And it looks like there's still... Nice. Looks like there's still a few chords here that I could remove. Cool. The spot healing brush and content aware tools can be so helpful sometimes. Zooming into that lamp, making sure it looks decent. I'll go ahead and draw out a guide. And using the warp tool, I will straighten this out. I don't like to use the lens correction tool. That thing is garbage. Usually just ends up making the image look worse. Just try and straighten that stuff out a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I think that's a good result right there. I think the image is looking pretty clean so far, all things considered. So I'm going to go ahead and run my sharpen pass, and I will call it a day with this image. And as usual, I will come back and do a final review and make sure that it looks decent. If I had some more time, I would remove whatever this thing is. I don't know if this is a chair or what, but that wouldn't take too long. But at this point, I honestly just don't care. And, you know, I'd like to move on to all the other images that I have to edit because this one looks good enough.